Hello and welcome everybody to the Scrutineer live. Thought we'd try it from my living room here, but we haven't been here for quite a few weeks now. As you may know, at GPVWC they have a big upgrade system. It means that each car is different on the grid for a number of different reasons, which we'll get into a little bit now. So what this does allow me to do is go through the usual amount of the car upgrades, the engine upgrades, the engine choices and the tyre choices. Lets me do all that. But at the same time I'll be able to show you a little bit more about what's gone on in the frame of actually how the system works behind the scenes, and actually what goes on to actually do this. If you're a team manager, what can you actually see, what the systems are behind that you can actually develop, and how do you improve your car? Because there's a lot of things that only, there's about 12 teams, only about 12 managers ever see. Everybody else won't see this, so it's worth having a look at on this stream. We have a live chat box, so you can, if you're on the YouTube channel, you can type in there and have a look as well. We are on Facebook as well, so hello everybody on there. Unfortunately the chat is only for the YouTube guys. You can get in your own little chat, but I won't be able to see it. So if there's any questions you want to ask about the systems or how it works, or any advice maybe for any budding managers, considering that team applications at GPVWC have just opened, so you may want to get over there and potentially apply. I'm sure details will all be coming out on the forums and on the website very soon. Anyways, we shall move on. So we've got the Super League race tomorrow. That's from Brazil. So this is the penultimate round. Obviously Rudy Van Buren's already got the title race sealed up for the drivers, but the team's title is still very much alive between Vobble and Nordsten. So those cars are obviously big ones we'll look at. But the rest of the field is very close this year. You find at this time of the year not everybody keeps developing. So normally with it being the upgrade system, you get an awful lot of teams that at this stage of the year will go, we'll save our R&D points. We'll come on to that if you haven't seen that before, episode 1 in YouTube somewhere. And they might save the cash as well. So every development you do is costing you resources in R&D and cash. Like you do, if you've got a real race team in Formula 1, it's costing you to get that, even those minor fractions of a second is costing you millions potentially, and it's doing the same here. So you've got teams that, if you have already sort of midfield pack potentially, if you haven't really got any places to go up the grid, and you're pretty safe, save the money, go for next year. That's kind of a fair choice that people make. Same with the engine choices, we'll find that as well, because it costs to get new engines potentially £1 million each time. So without doing that, the top teams though, if you've still got a title battle, you want to keep developing all the way to the end. But does that impact you next season? It might well do. So it's a fine balancing act. But we have found this year a lot of teams are still developing even at this late stage, and they probably still will even through to next round, although you can't develop every round, so it's every other round. So you might find that actually next round there might be not as much, but you will find probably a lot of fresh engines and things like that as we come on to that. So we've got Brazil tomorrow. We'll go through. I haven't got any nice screen graphics unfortunately, like we have had from Mr. Willis previously, but this time out I have got you just the figures. If you want to see it all, you can grab it on the internet on gpvwc.com under Super League and on development. It does show you there nice graphs all the way through till end of tomorrow, and then it closes off for the week, because you can't see what's developing in the meantime. It gets opened and you can see it from the Saturday before the Thursday race, because you can't really edit. That's your car, you're locked in at that stage. After this it can all still be developing anyway, so it's secret. Teams aren't meant to know what other teams are developing. But on that graphic it does involve all the pit upgrades as well. So you can upgrade your car to make it quicker on pit stops, or repair the damage quicker as well. This is all done through the Rfactor2 engine, which is brilliant really, to be able to do all this sort of stuff and to adapt the cars all the time. It's very detailed. So when you take those out of the equation, because they don't actually improve the speed of the car on a one lap basis or anything like that, but they do obviously improve it from a perspective of the race distance, because if you're gaining yourself even 3 seconds, 2 seconds per pit stop, in this mod where they're doing 4 or 5 stops, that's an awful lot of time to be losing out. But a lot of teams now have taken it to 100% or high 80s, so there's such a small difference now than there was earlier in the year, with pit teams having no development against teams at 50 or 60% development on pit crew. It doesn't really make a big difference, so we'll ignore that, put that all to one side, and we're going to look at the speed of the cars that you'll be able to see tomorrow on track. Now there might be a little bit surprised when you look at the list, because it's not the car that I think is the best from the points perspective isn't actually the car at the top of the list. So the Kerno team, once you take out pit stops, has the highest points upgrades. Now that doesn't necessarily mean they've got the fastest car. It does mean that they've used the most points onto the car, so they put the most upgrades on. So you can upgrade lots of different areas, but you can only upgrade 2 at a time. So in doing that, it means that you have to make tough choices sometimes. And that means you can improve on certain areas really massively if you want to, but it might make very little difference to the car. Whereas actually if you improve something like we found this year, the front wing downforce has been a massive improvement, or weight or something like that. If you improve them to 100%, that makes a much bigger difference to the car times over the course of the lap. So it is where you spend it, but when you get into this sort of level, most people have maxed out the key areas at this stage. So Kerno on 380. You then work down to Nordsten, who obviously title battle, still developing there at 367, so it's a small gap, but we're talking minor at this stage. Adonis come in at 364, they've had a strong car all year as well, and to be honest probably underperformed slightly for the quality that car is. Walters, just behind as well at 347, they're doing very well in that car. It's about, because you think at the moment they're third in the standings, they've got the 4th best car, so they're overperforming, so it's good on them. Fodbold next, after all their issues, are down with 335 points, so that means actually they've got the 5th most developed car on the grid, but currently lead the standings. Red Archer then come in at 315 points. Then you get starting going down to a reasonable gap now at this stage. You get down to Street Fighter at 286. So you think that's nearly 100 points, or nearly a third of the car, nearly a quarter of the car, sorry, worse than Kerno. That's quite a big difference, really. Hawkeye, then 279, which is very low actually, considering some of the speed that people like Cooper have been able to get out of that car in one lap. But it might be where it's developed that's making the difference on the problems with the tyres and the fact that they can't really put that speed across for the whole race. But you'd expect maybe they're in a good position for next year if they haven't spent many points this year. Or they overspent last year. Who knows? Green Stripes Racing actually has a reasonable car, 237, so it's better than a couple of others. But yeah, they are struggling and they have saved some points. And yeah, it's down there, and they are down there in the grid as well. Storm Racing, whenever they do show up, they've got 211 points. They have been showing up the last few races. That's probably a bit of a disservice to them to say that. But their car is shockingly poor, really. And then Mad Cape, Pure them, if they do turn up, 192 points there, which is about half nearly of Kerno's car. So you can understand why they might now be struggling. Potentially as they're trying to get in that third to 6th battle in the standings, really. But they're running with a particularly poor car. But you think they've not spent much at all this year, and they were a brand new team, so actually they've probably got quite a lot to carry over to next year. So watch out for Mad Cape if they've got everything there if they want it to make a great team next year with the car anyway. Engine wise, there's still little bits of developments going on, but this has slowed down massively in the second half of the season because the development points are much harder to come by. And so the team sort of spent them all in the first half of the year, and now it's only whatever they can gain in the free practices each race, which is not very many points at all when it comes to engines compared to carb development. So you still stick, when you're talking points totals, you're talking Talos. They've got 125 points worth on their car across the 3 areas, very big on boost. Martex then come in at 114 points. They've done the power and the fuel. Valiant did the power and the fuel with 104 points, and then Trinity propped up the field with 96. So that's your car and engine development points. Now you might look at the points and go, oh, that doesn't make much sense, that sort of thing. We'll go into it in a minute when we look at the actual development graphs. That might help a little bit for you. We then move in to engine choices, and there's quite a few. Well, we saw last time out, quite a few fresh engines. This time, not quite so many, but that's expected because obviously they can. We're finding most teams are finding 2 races out of them. The idea is you can get 3 out of them, and people like Franchik did manage to do that last time out. But this time, I mean, he ended up a lap or so down. He wasn't driving anywhere near where he wanted to be. So you're talking cars that have, if you're looking at the graphic, you are talking cars that are using unit 7 or 8 are the 2 that you have to buy. You get 6 allocated, so those are 2 you have to buy extra if you want to use them. So that costs you an extra £1 million per unit, and you get a back of the grid. So team cars where you can see unit 7 or 8 and at 100% for that matter, they're what's starting back of the grid. So for example, Nordsten Racing in the number 1 car of David Fiduk has unit number 8, 100%, and so in doing so he's obviously got back of the grid. Now I think he had one anyway, so it's probably quite a clever use of that. So that he's effectively got himself a fresh engine. It cost him £1 million, but that's where that stands. Whereas Florian Guy took it last time out, so he's using unit 7 at 60%. So he may still have to take another one yet for Abu Dhabi, depending on how this goes, but we'll see. Adonis come in with a 62% engine and a 25% engine in that second car. Whoever's sitting in that second car of Adonis in the number 7, if Lopez comes back, or if one of their other brilliant stand-ins goes for it, that's going to be one of those to watch to see if it does make the finish. It should, if they manage it well, but they won't be able to do anywhere near as what they should be able to do with that car, really. And that's a Unit 7 as well, so if they get into that point with that unit, you'd expect them to use a Unit 8 next time out. Volvo Racing, they've got Unit 6 on Rudy's car, so that's 100%, but that's not back of the grid because it's a Unit 6, it's one of the original ones they could use. Unit 6 is also used for Risto, so he hasn't got one either, but he's got a 61% engine. So a little bit of disparity there, and you'd look at that and go, well, mate, Risto's probably going to have to take it back of the grid next time out because he's going to have to use a Unit 7 or 8 there. Storm have got 2 engines because they haven't finished certain races. They're still using like Unit 3 and 5, so it does benefit you in a way if you don't actually get to the finish of some of these races. So Storm has a 53% engine in the first car and a 60% in the second car. Red Archer, so they've also gone the route of, well, we're not going to use fresh engines and pay for them. Understandable, probably in their position, so they're using a Unit 6, which is a 36% engine. That should be fine realistically, but it's still going to be underpowered. And a Unit 4 at 50%. Both of those will be safe as houses, you'd expect. Kerno have got a 62% engine and a 61% engine in Units 5 and 6 respectively. So again, perfectly fine, they'll get to the end quite well. They might even try and use those in next round if they're lucky. There'll be a probably about 20-25% left on them if they get to the race finish this time out. So they might be able to use them in Abu Dhabi and in so not incur any penalties. Walters, obviously at the top as well, so they're using both using Unit 6 and both on 61%. So that'll be an interesting one to see next time out, but they're both safe this time out. They just haven't got the full power possibly available to them. Green Stripes, though, have got both fresh units. They've had quite a lot of DNFs this year, so they've got 2 fresh units, both of Unit 6, so that'll see them the season out. They'll do those 2 races on this, and then they can see next race with the same units at around 60%. Absolutely fine. Good job by them. Hawkeye took her back of the grid last time, so they're using Unit 7, which still has 72% engine life in it. That's perfectly fine. And a fresh Unit 6, so that's not a back of the grid though, and that'll in the second car, and probably Euler if he's racing, and that'll be perfectly fine to the end of the season as well. Street Fighter using a Unit 6, which is 63% in the Hovel car, or in the first car, sorry, and in the second car they've got 100%, and they haven't. They've got a 97% engine, sorry, but that is a Unit 7, so that has already been used. That must have been Francic last time out because he crashed out lap 1. So he's still got the fresh engine, and that will actually now last him to the end of the season. Brilliant stuff. Doesn't have to use a second engine. Mad Cape, if they do show, or whoever's in it, hasn't got the best cars. They're obviously deciding not to use fresh engines. They've got both in Unit 5, and both have got 31%, and the other one's got 23. So 23 one is the lowest. So the second car of Mad Cape will be the one to watch first off, followed by the number 7 of Adonis. Those are the 2 lowest points score, percentage reliability left of those teams, of those engines. So if those 2 start failing, then others at 30% may need to worry, but you should be absolutely fine if you drive it well and you've done your research on it. Tyre choices, pretty boring now. Everyone learned mid-season somewhere along those lines to stop trying these things. So everyone stopped using mediums, everyone stopped using hards. So everybody's got the ultra soft, the super soft, and the soft tyres. That's all they've got, which is great. That's fine. They're the fastest 3 tyres, and it means we can kind of predict the pit stops a little bit. You will see people trying to do maybe 3 or 4 on the softer tyres. Maybe some of the guys at the back of the grid might try that. Most people will be around, I'd imagine, the 4, 5, 6 sort of stops. That sort of element would be where most tracks would now sort of hit. Anything more than that, and you're doing way too many pit stops, and you're just going to get problems because you're just taking too much time in the pit. Basically, that's pretty much easy, isn't it? So that's what we'd normally go through to tell you what's going on with all the cars and the teams and the engines and that sort of stuff. But I thought I'd give you a quick look as well at the other bits and pieces that goes on into the back of the actual, back of the racing, into GPVWC.com. So we shall flick over, if I'm clever with this. There we are. We are now on the internet. So we're on GPVWC.com here, just the home page, and you'll see that I've already logged on. So this is your dashboard effectively. So even if you're a driver, you've got a dashboard if you've logged in and you're on the system. So some of this you'll have, all the general bits there. That's perfectly fine. And same with the diary and the driver parts. Now this is the manager bit on your right hand side here. So all this area, even if you're a lower manager, if you're in Formula Challenge or if you're in Super Cup, you'll be able to see some of these. Super Cup have finances, You'll have the team info and the team license and the team personnel contracts and disciplinary proceedings on all of, if you've got a team in the league at all. I think you even get that if you have a ITC team. But the ones below that are the ones that are more for the actual Super League, really. So you start going through, and let's have a look at what everyone probably wants to look at, is research and development. So in here, if we have a quick look in here, you've got your R&D summary. So this tells me, and I'm quite happy to tell you, some of this detail you shouldn't really have, but I'm quite happy to tell you it all. There's no point in hiding it all nowadays. We're coming to the end of the season. Some of it carries over, so you will be able to see that I've got 942 R&D points left to carry over into next season. It doesn't quite work that way. It works on a percentage sliding scale. So the first 200 points you get to keep 50%, and it goes down and things like that. So actually I'll get nowhere near that. I'll probably carry over about 300 or so. But it also shows you then what is developing and what has developed. So on this side you've got all the different areas that you can develop. So you've got the front wing downforce, front wing dirty air, and the status, if I roll over, tells me exactly what I've got. So I've done front wing downforce to 80%. If it's ready, it's already developed, it's on the car, job done. There's one I've got in progress, which is down there, which is still being developed and will be coming, I'll tell you now, will be coming to our final race. And so that'll be bringing the weight. So that'll mean we'll have a 100% lightest car, which just catches us up to the other guys at the top already. So you can develop each of these areas. If you wanted to, you can select more. It shows me there as well. That's the one I've currently got going on. It shows me how much it cost me. So to do that development, which is 20%, it cost me 1.2 million and 72 R&D points. It tells me the start and the end date as well. If you want to start a new one, you can have a look. So it tells me my cut-off. I have to have anything I need on the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, I'd need to have done by the 10th of November. And you literally select something further down. We'll just select something we haven't done yet and put in the 10th. He says of, there we are, and press calculate. Now that refreshes the page. So if we scroll back down again, and here you now get a little bit saying, it tells me if I was doing the dirty air rear wing now to that date, it's saying in theory I could get to 6% development, but it also does tell me I can only do it by the 21st of the 11th. That's because it takes 21 days to do any development at all, regardless of how long you take on it. Obviously it can take longer than that if you pick it further along, but that's where that comes to. So by that I wouldn't get that in, I would not get that in time for the 10th of the 11th. So there's no point in me doing that because I will not end up on the car this year, and the cars get reset at the end of the year anyway. It would have cost me 26 R&D points and a lot of £131,000 in cash, basically. So that's showing you the areas there on research and development. I'll quickly flip back and see if anybody is any comments anyway. You can always ask questions about any of this as we go through. Just write in the YouTube comments, and I'll quite happy to try and answer. We'll show you. The engine development, now of course there's only 4 people that have this anyway, because there's only 4 engine manufacturers. We have a very similar system here. At the moment we've got nothing going on, so there's nothing developing. So you can see we can do the power, the fuel consumption and the mapping. They're the 3 areas we could do. We have 96 R&D points left, so engine R&D points, and the cutoff is exactly the same. You'll find that these are a lot more expensive to do, so let's just, for an example, do it again to the 10th of the 11th, just to show you what's going on. So last time out it was only going to cost us about 30 something R&D points. This time out, to do the same time frame, would have taken me 225 engine R&D points. Obviously I've got nowhere near that, so I can't do that, and it tells me that with a nice error there. It's a great back office system, this, it really is, to tell you what's going on, and how you can do these things. We can even go further on and look at our, let's go for the design office, shall we? Which is the next one down the list. So this is looking at next year's car. So not only have we got to develop the season we're in, so you've got to develop everything that we're already here with, you've then got to put some away already to build the car. So it's like F1 teams already starting to develop the 2018 car. That's what teams have to do here. So basically, to get the basic chassis that everybody gets in January, you need to have put away 300 R&D points, which it shows there I have already done, so I'm at 100%. I've put 300 away. You can put it away whenever you want. You could just select the slider down here, or type it in and submit the points. It's like just a bit of a savings account, top a bit up each time. It's the easiest way of doing it. Or you wait until the end of the season and go, well, I'm not spending on the normal car now, I'll throw it all in there. But it's not too many points, 300. You should be able to do that really. But if you do forget, it's going to have to come out of next year's budget, which is not great. You want to keep things to the right year. Race bays we'll go to next. So this is where you pick your tyre compounds. So unfortunately, because we've already got to the stage where we're at the race tomorrow, tyre compounds are already picked. Once you've picked them, it just comes up with a nice picture of all the tyre compounds, but basically there's a drop down box and you select the three you want. Simple. I don't really need to show you that. The engine unit tells me here. Now I'm going to show you what's going on. People might quite like this info, I suppose. So we've got the two cars, 14 and 15 for this one. So this is VOD Bull. You get 6 units available, so that shows you they're 1 to 6. And then 7 and 8 there, I don't know if you can see, I've got a little asterisk next to them, so they're the ones you have to buy. So it's showing me there on the car 14 of Rudy, he's got, and you can hover over like a 10% engine left, 2 zeros, a 22, a 21, a nice 100%, which is the one he's using this time out, a 24%, which what he had finished last time, and he's still got a 60% engine left as well in that car. In the second car though, for Risto, he's got a 0, an 8, a 0, a 20, another 20, a 61 that he's using this time, and a 23, but he hasn't bought Unit 8, so that's not available there at the moment. So you can easily buy that, which I'll come to in a second. It tells me my allocations there, of which ones I can, shows me which two I've got there, so I'm using Unit 6 on both. You can request an engine, so I can't request another one for that one, but I can request an engine here if I wanted Unit 8 and submit it, and it tells me it will give me a grid penalty and a fine as well. And this gives you an allocation of all the past events of how much each car has used engine-wise on each race. So there you can see the Brazilian at the bottom with NA because it hasn't happened yet. We can go back, they're nearly there now, so let's have a look. There's also marketing and hospitality. We haven't really covered this because it doesn't really impact the car directly, but just something that does go on so you can see what's going on in management. It tells me here I've got a commercial manager, and a commercial office. So you have to have hired your staff, which is, actually I can show you that in a second as well. So in this circumstance, and different marketing events. So come the end of the year, this is quite important. The figure you're looking at is this sponsor satisfaction here. So this one currently is 90% in the VOD Bull garage there, so the sponsors are 90% satisfied. So if you've got that at the end of the season to 100%, when you do the sponsor bids at the start of the year, which we did go through in, I think it was episode 1 or 2, then that's effectively your income for the year for the team. So if you've got 100%, that's great, and you get 100% of the sponsor's money that they pledged to sponsor you. If you're only at 90% though, they take it down by like 10%, so you're losing out on the money really. So it's worth doing, and in doing so, you basically pick your marketing event that you're going to use for each round. So you have to pick a different level. So they cost different amounts. So the top level is level 5, and to me that costs 150,000, all the way down to level 1, which costs 20,000. Depending on which level you pick, you get different satisfaction from it really, as well as results, and there is a reputation for each race. So it tells me there my past hospitality activities and what I gained each round. So certain things like United States there, if you just look at the last couple, I used a level 1, which is the lowest, and only spent 20 grand, and that gave me a +2. It does decrease after each race anyway, so you've got to make sure you bring it up. It drops by 5% before each round, so there I actually lost a net 3% at the Mexican Grand Prix. But you look at the USA Grand Prix, and yes, it dropped 5, but then I gained 11 back, so I was actually catching up. This time out we've selected as level 5, which is the first time we've done that all season, so we're hoping for a big move there. And this is what I was saying about the prestige, of each race. So ignore the young drivers test, but the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix next time out, we would then be able to pick which level of event we would like to cover, and it's sort of got a medium prestige, level 5 there. You think just like Monaco has the top prestige, for example, and certain races have even lower than 5, so it's much harder to get the sponsor satisfaction back up. I'll quickly show you bids, but I don't think it will show me much at this time because a lot of it you can't open. It just shows me there my sponsors and people, and shows me my my engine suppliers as well. We can go into team personnel and just show you about the hiring of the staff. So here we are. So this shows me that for each area, so that's the design office at the top there, and of that it shows me my chief designer and his quality, but it also then shows below the different quality of staff you can hire from stars 5 to 1, and you have to get, well, you have to have a minimum amount of people in there, but you can only have a maximum amount of 50. I have got all 50 in the car development because that's the engine. The design office is what improves the car. You can get it quicker if you've got more staff, basically, of a particular quality. In the commercial office, they help what we've just been talking about, which is the marketing and the sponsors. And again, of that, you can select. So at the moment, I've only got 13, which I think was the bare minimum you had to do, of 40. And you pick which levels they are. So it shows there I've got 8 of the 8, which is the maximum I can have of the top 5 stars. It's costing me 1.1 million there, you see, just to have those. And then you've got the race team as well, which is your pit crew, which you also have to pick which ones you've got there. I've got all 30 in there as well, because that does help your pit crew go quicker, and that's costing me 2.2 million every time. You can see that clearly there. And I think that's probably all the sort of bits that you see from a management perspective that you may not see at any other time throughout the year. There's contracts, markets and contracts, which I can do for you actually quickly before we disappear off. Maybe not, that is running a little slow, so we won't quite do that at the moment. But that was just to give you a little taste of what you can get on the inside of GPWC and what the management team, what all the managers, Super League managers can do. So that's all the sort of levels that you have to balance all the time and be doing. There's a lot more pre-season as well with bids and hiring those staff that impacts you. But at this stage of the season, really, all you're looking at is that. To be honest, I'm now looking massively at that sponsor satisfaction. You want to get that up for next year. It'll impact you heavily if you don't get that 100% or nearly that 100% come the end of the year, which does mean you've got some good couple of results or some good big parties for the next two races, which we have. So if you're in the if you're here for this in Brazil one, the VB Garage has got a lovely marquee of a level 5, so that's probably the place to be. It won't be the only one, I'm sure. Plenty of others. So it's interesting there, isn't it, that you can. There's so much more going on than you probably see normally day to day on the cars on track. Yes, you know the cars are different, but why are they different? All the different areas you can develop. We've spoken about it a little bit, and you see different teams developing different areas, but actually how you do it and how you market it and how you add it up. Because there's team finances as well, which we haven't even gone into there, which everything gets taken out. If you're using certain sets of tyres, that costs you. Every kilometre you run has fuel, which costs you. You've got transport costs between each race. So depending on where your base is, if you're flying all the way to Australia from the UK, that costs more than if you're going to France, for example, or anywhere, like, you know, different sections of the globe. Anyway, all those different parts add up to your finances, your driver's salaries. You've got your staff salaries there. You've got your engine costs. You've got your development of your car costs, which is the main one really. It's probably about 40 million or something just to do that. Teams roughly have a budget of probably about 100 million as a rough estimate for everybody. Once you've included all the sponsors' income and stuff, but sponsor income is about half that straight away, so, or more probably. So that's why the sponsor satisfaction is so important to you. If you're losing 10% of that, that really does impact you massively for the year, and on your choices particularly into what you might want to bid on or choose or develop and or pay certain drivers. That sort of element is all factored in. You can see all this race tomorrow though, so make sure you catch it on GPVWC.com's YouTube. Where you can see all the racing and all the action by covered by Jake and Josh there. They'll go through everything for you as well, but just wanted to give you a bit more of an insight of what you might be seeing on track and why certain cars might be quicker than others, or why they might do pit stops quicker than others, or why they might be better on tyres than others. All these sort of elements. It is down to the driver, it's also down to that team, and choices potentially made 6 months ago as well does impact massively. And some of these guys are learning, and some that you see some of the teams are up there every year. It's because they're well managed, they know what they're doing. So it's really important to actually get that, to get that working and get a good team around you, so you're getting all the data and all the managers know what they're doing as well. So hopefully this might have helped. People might look back on this maybe and get an idea of what we're actually doing at VB. If you want any questions, you want to grab us, we might be able to answer them for next time out. Coming up on SimNews though, SimNews.TV, we've got the Super Cup from GPVWC, only in about an hour's time, well, not even an hour's time probably, at this stage, about 45 minutes. You can catch that on this channel or on our Twitch or on GPVWC YouTube as well. And a lot of other shows coming up. The Super League show, I think, will probably be out tomorrow now, where you can catch Jake, Ben and Casper talking through the previous round, telling you. So catch that before you watch the race tomorrow night, 8 o'clock start UK time. Thank you very much for watching. I hope if you like this, do a comment, share it, let's have a look around. If not, we might go back to the old system. But let's have a look and see if this works. And thank you very much for joining me. Cheers. Bye for now.